Starting to stream. You
Start
ruined
these
everything.
nuts.
You ruined everything. Hey guys. Hey everybody. How's everyone doing? Today we are on our fourth Robot Pencil stream, which is cool. We have special guest Kalen Chalk. Say hi, dude.
Hi, dude.
Oh, you're so stupid. And then, and then we got John Rivera, who's gonna help moderate.
What's up, all? What's up, all?
Did you say what's up, Paul?
Is there a
Paul.
Paul? Is there a Paul we should know about? Shout outs to Paul.
And then
up,
we have
Paul?
then we have
doing?
Paul. Say hi, Paul.
Is there a Paul?
No,
It's
there's
a guy
no
named Paul. He gets a free class right now, straight up.
So let's kind of take care of some business real quick. So one of the things I want to talk about is we filled up the mentorship for October. So yay! And we just started it. So everyone that's in the October class, yay! Thank you. And
Sound bites.
yeah, I don't know what a sound
Like,
bite is.
What the hell is that?
I don't know.
I
Any
mean, like,
popular
like on a
sound
radio show when
I
something good
know.
happens.
I
Like,
know. I
what the hell
don't
is
have
that?
any. Yeah.
It's like a record screech.
Yeah, I don't know.
Hilarious.
Anyways, we okay, we we filled up the class, which is great, and so the classes should be really good and fun. And we're going to be starting next week. Will be the first official class on Monday. It'll be Kalen's environment class. So I just want to thank everybody who decided to take those classes. Trust me, it's going to be valuable. So hopefully some of you guys are actually still watching the videos and learning and trying to get the homework done before Monday. I know it seems like a short deadline, but trust us, like this is part of the class. It's fast, quick, and efficient. In fact, we still need to put together the student gallery before we head out today. But so you guys can see the people that worked on last month, which was Mech, which is great. There's a few people in there who are rock stars for sure. But with that, another exciting thing is that one of the initiatives that I wanted with my mentorship was to actually hire my top tier students to work with me on freelance stuff. And sure enough, that we were able to. I got a really pretty interesting gig that was pretty hefty, and it was paying us pretty high wages. And I contacted two of my students and said, hey, let's work on this, and I'll pay you guys basically. We'll split it down the middle as we see fit, and then as the work starts to kind of topple either in my favor or your favor, the money will go in that direction. But overall, they will get a handsome reward for their hard work. And what the point is that I want to kind of keep doing this so that eventually that I can be a freelance house and hire those who are one of my favorite or some of the best students in my classes, and basically give them the opportunity to work through me, through my company, Robotpencil. And I think it's a good idea. I think it's working out great. Actually, we just turned in yesterday, and apparently the client was like floored about the quality of work, and so which is great. I'm glad that they love it, and I can't wait to see what they see for the next batch of stuff that we have. But that's working out. The next thing is that Heaven's Hell has been officially sent out to the publisher, and like I met that harsh deadline that I gave myself, which was also the day that I left, or like the day before I left to Colombia for the workshop.
Colombia.
Yeah.
How was that?
Shut up. We're not talking about that. There's no time. Why are you trying to have a conversation? This is so organized. Okay, so before Kayla derails me, Colombia was great. Good people. We're not talking about that.
He's got derailed.
Yeah, so Heaven's Hell, we're still waiting on feedback on editing, and if there was anything, like if I misspelled a lot of word, probably misspelled the word heaven and misspelled the word hell. But the artwork's in there, and there might be some more space for more artwork if so, but it should be a few pages if anything. I'm not sure. That's why I sent it to them and say, what else am I needing to do to finish it? But as far as I'm concerned, we're really on that home stretch, and I delivered what I was promising to deliver to get it done. And so now I'm just waiting. And once I get the news on, okay, do this, do that, and then I make those changes, I'll let you guys know. Those of you who have supported me up to this point. And then finally, the another thing that's really cool is that we've just launched November mentorship. John will, I don't know if he's already linked you guys. Oh wow, see, efficient. He's learning. And 2014, we have 2 classes that are still available, but they're filling up pretty quickly. I think because people are starting to realize that this is pretty legit. I mean, I'm really trying to help people out. And why this is really important to me as well is that dynamic. Hold on, I was trying to spell as I was talking. The reason why I think this is working well because everybody in these classes are leaving like with so much information and so much valuable knowledge on not just about how to get better as artists, but just how to become professionals. And I'm paying attention to my top tier students, and I'm telling people early, I'm like, do your best, finish, because you're going to have a portfolio piece, and that portfolio piece I'm going to put into the company's portfolio. And when I go to these conventions, I will be asking for jobs. And when I ask for jobs, I am going to be asking for jobs for you. And
aren't you going to one?
Yeah, we're going to go to one next week. And we're going to try to go to GDC in LA as well. We're going to try to keep going to these at least every few months or every other month.
GDC's in LA?
Yeah, there's one. Stop. Stop talking to me.
Damn it. I didn't know. Fuck.
And then we had a character class, and it filled up like immediately. Apparently, John and I had talked about this. We might restructure the mentorship a little bit because it seems to me that you guys don't care about all the other stuff I have to teach. You guys are like, no, we just want characters, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. I'm a character artist. I do freelance for characters, so it might be useful to kind of have my students have a portfolio endeavor full of characters. But I mean, I do creatures too. And dynamic lighting is part of the work process as well. But you know, I pay attention to numbers and statistics. And but this is sold out. And if anyone who's interested in doing characters, the best bet would definitely be going to dynamic lighting. That would be the only class that would be where I will totally allow you to kind of make up character designs and work on character designs throughout the class as we are learning dynamic lighting. But all of these classes are supposed to build your portfolio and things that I can teach you. Like Kalen's teaching environment class in October because he's an environment artist. That's what he does professionally all the time. I don't really do it all the time. I can do it, but I'm not as good as Kalen. So I don't want to basically charge you full price for this type of class where I don't really even know if I can give you any good, solid advice. With that being said, we will start the stream. And officially start the stream. And today's topic is just really about, you know, the industry, the entertainment industry, and the things that are going wrong with the industry, or at least what people have been seeing. Let me go this int for entertainment industry and how people are getting, like, we'll talk about layoffs, like how that's been affecting people. We'll talk about how overseas, how that's been affecting companies, which well, we might actually switch these. It makes more sense to talk about overseas than layoffs. And then we'll talk about just kind of the future, at least what I believe the future is, and what I think people should look forward to. Because it's a good future. It's not a bad future. This seems all bad, right? This right here, this seems all bad, but this is actually a good future. It's all about perspective, right? So this is an open conversation now. You're allowed to talk to me, Kalen.
I can do it now?
Yeah, you can talk to me.
I feel like it's a trap.
Shut up!
I'll be like, so, shut up, Caleb. Like, what? You told me I could talk.
It's funny because whenever we get into the Skype conversations, I'm like, I was like, oh, dude, test your mic? And I test, shut up! Like before you could even test it.
Hurts my feelings.
I know. I'm going to take a drink of water. So, yeah, so Kayla, you want to say anything about Lisa October class? If anyone in here is about to take it?
Yeah, we're really excited for the class. Me and AJ have been spending a lot of time trying to, figure out what we want to do. I think it's going to be fun just because you're gonna get a little bit of feedback, not just from me where I focus on environments, but you're going to get some feedback from AJ too. So, essentially you're getting a lot of good feedback and a lot of just good information from both at the same time. So, yeah, it's going to be a fun class. It's going to be a lot of work, and hopefully we're going to get some good stuff out of you guys, and we're going to show you guys how to be efficient. I mean, I'm excited. But for real though, I didn't know there was a GDC in LA. Side note, I didn't know that. that was a thing now.
All right, shut up.
All right.
Okay. That's how it's gonna be when we teach.
Yeah.
And you'll be like, so then that's what you need to do when you move your perspective and color, and we should be good.
Yeah.
Don't listen to Galen. Listen to me.
See, this is why I don't talk.
Yeah.
Why am I here?
This is why we don't have nice things.
This is why I can't nice things.
All right. So the first thing I was thinking about talking about was overseas, right? So I'm not sure if you've experienced this, Karen, like with competing with overseas or outsourcing outside of the country. But I've seen a little bit of it working for some studios, for Sony and Blizzard specifically, those two. And so overseas to me is just kind of like it's what's happening is that people are becoming more aware and educated about how to work for entertainment. You know. And that's a good thing, right? Like people around the world are allowed to learn and become part of the industry. But what comes with that is that people that live in different countries have different types of rates and wages that are in their country, and they can undervalue their work, or there's a better way of putting it. They can charge less for their work because perhaps it's cheaper to live where they live. Right?
Yeah, it's very true.
But why does this have to be only, like, people only think about that because it's easy to just blame something that you will never touch, right? I blame China because they're China, and it's just like, well, yeah, but what about people that live in America who also live in equally lower rated environments, And this is always going to be a problem, and it will never change. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Education is going to become more and more frequent around the world. Lower rates will always be competitive, and then and it's not only international; it's domestic. You know what I mean? And so, because of this, what usually tends to happen, is layoffs. These companies will say, "How do we compete with these other companies overseas?" Well, we have to mark down our prices, right? It's like we're on sale. I don't know, did you have any experience about the overseas stuff when you were working at ILM?
Yeah, I mean, actually, oh shit, am I allowed to even? I don't know if I can talk about. I think
about it vaguely then.
Well, I know that in terms of VFX as a whole, what's one of the big things is tax incentives, right? So California. So when you make projects, out in California or pretty much in America, you got to pay tax on that. And because there aren't any tax breaks, a lot of the VFX world is kind of shifting towards Europe right now, and that can lead to a lot of in Canada, right? Because they have a lot of tax incentives. So, and when you think about that as a director, right? A director, I mean, they don't really care about the artwork, they just want to make the movie. So if I do it in London, right, and I save over $30 million in the span of a 2 or 3 year time to make a movie, why wouldn't I do it in London? Why would I want to do it in Hollywood if I have to pay taxes? So it's becoming harder to compete, and I think that's why a lot of companies have been going under in terms of the VFX world is the competition. It's just because before, I think too, is that we used to outsource to people because they could do the bitch work, they could do the stuff that we didn't want to do, right? But I think because information has gotten so out there that now the people that we used to outsource to are now getting good, just as good as the people that were giving them the work, to the point where now these people can be like, you know what, we could just do it ourselves and cut out the middleman. And so in a sense, absolutely. it's creating competition. And when you're living in a country where you don't need a lot of money, when I was living in Spain, working at a video game company in Spain, I had a pretty low salary compared to what it would be in America. But in Spain, it was a baller salary. Like, I didn't need a lot, right? Uh-huh. So I was just like, cool, I'm living like a king out here. So I didn't need a lot of money. So when you compare it to someone like in India or some other country or like that, they don't need a lot of money. So yeah, they're gonna want to go do it there, and that's always gonna happen. So I guess my theory of it is just be so good where
turn off your phone. Okay, good.
Sorry, dude, my girlfriend. Sorry, I'm like, stop calling me.
I'm just kidding.
I think the best way to handle it is just be so good and just be so personal with your work that like people will want to just work with you. You know what I mean? I think that's just the only way you can really combat that. Is just be so good that, you know, because if it's close, you know what I mean? Like if the work is close, then they're probably gonna go with the cheaper person every single time.
Yeah.
So that gap, you just have to be a lot better.
Or a better way to think of it is just be different, right? That could be very valuable too. So then you know, one of the things I want to add to that before I talk about the next thing is, you know, Steve Jobs was always attacked for like his use of overseas manufacturing of the iPhones and iPads. And people are like, why don't you bring it to America? Why don't you bring it to America? And he's like, it's just ridiculously cheaper. As a businessman, it is the obvious choice to not do it in America. It's just too expensive to do it here in America. And that you know, you have to think about that. Like, is that really Steve Jobs' job, is to give people in America jobs? You know, he's a company. He's a president of a company. He's trying to make money so that people that do work for his company can actually get the salaries and payments that they need, because there are lots of taxes and some places where people live. It's like in San Francisco, right? Or up in the Bay. Yep. It's expensive, man, and that's where, you know, they're like the headquarters is. You know, like, how is he going to have to keep up with some of these high-paying engineers and artists that he pays in-house? You know, he's got to outsource some stuff, man. You just gotta. So I understand that what sucks, right? But I understand it. And so what generally happens from that is, okay, so they'll underbid. They'll be, hey, we're for sale, and then they actually get the jobs, and then they'll hire a few contractors here and there. But then they realize, holy crap, like, we still don't have enough money to pay all of the artists that are working here. And there's a cheaper alternative, which is lay them off, right? Which sucks. So because through the product of not making enough money, underbidding, a lot of this type of stuff starts to add up, and these huge companies start to lay off people. And what I want to start talking about now is just kind of the layoff, like what is like the mentality of why people get laid off and the reasons that they get let go. Now, one of the reasons is they feel there is no need. The company says there is no need for them. Like we're looking at like a black and white piece of paper. It says we don't use their work. Fire them, right? Which sucks because it's, you know, people are behind these kind of like stats. You know, where I know the people that are like laying people off aren't necessarily like cutthroat, like we don't need them, just get rid of them all. But like, you know, they start to just realize like, well, do we really need like 7 modelers when we could probably get away with 3 modelers? You know. And so then they lay off people. They start to slice off the size of the cake. They start getting rid of the frosting. They start getting rid of all this extra stuff. And another thing that happens when the mentality of layoffs, from what I've observed, is, you know, well, we keep you on contract for whatever reason for however long. You're never really, quote unquote, full time. You don't have that kind of protection. So you should have known. You should have known better. You should have known this was about to happen anyway, right? And then people get let go because their contract conveniently ran out, right? And then another thing that I think happens, which is not necessarily a direct thing, but it's people just quit. People that see all of their friends and they see the company making these bold decisions, and they say, you know what, I'm gonna try to leave before they make me leave, like before they escort me out, type of thing, you know. And this causes the whole company to basically, you know, lose a lot of people. And then what they end up doing, they run out of people, and they're like, oh crap, you know, we may have got rid of too many people, and we still need to do all of this work, and we got rid of, you know, the excellent talent that we had, the people that have been working with us for years and who've understood our workflow, and now we have to hire people overseas. So it's like a vicious cycle, right? And then what happens is they bring them over and they pay them super low, and you know, these people don't know how to work with, you know, the the American model and all this type of stuff. So then you end up hiring, artists again to manage them and to clean up their work and to help guide them to become better and work, because the work is cheaper but not always better, like you were saying. And so then they have to hire and try to keep the talent that they have there, and what they end up doing is making their talent not necessarily the talent that they do have, the original talent, the people that they hired in the first place. They end up having them be more like offhand art directors and guidance people instead of actual artists, and that sucks. Some people don't want to do that. They don't want to make the things. They want to do the things that they did originally, but now they're just kind of holding people's hands. And so there's this whole model starts to kind of fall apart. The big studio model. I mean, Kayla and I both experienced layoffs, together, and you also experienced it when we were over at ILM. It's such a terrible kind of system, and it's like, can I stay here? Or you just don't have any solidity there. I remember when Kayla and I left, left our first studio. It was like weird, man. We were working on our game, and then all of a sudden, our boss is like, "Company shut down." We're like,
I can't
"What?
pay you anymore."
Yeah, and I'm like,
"Wait, what?"
Wow. Yeah, and so
Goodbye.
yeah, and it's such a sad thing, and nobody prepares you for that. Nobody teaches you how to avoid being laid off, and the reality is you can't avoid it. Like,
what was the lesson that you learned about your work?
about
Teach them that lesson.
Oh,
we got laid off.
I didn't save any of my work, man. I just left.
And what did we try to do?
Like, try to get it back. We were just like message them, like, "Hey, can we get the?"
No, we tried to come. We thought like, oh, we'll just come back tomorrow, and when we get the rest of our books and stuff, we'll grab some more of our files, so then we have it for our portfolio. And then when we came in the next day, like all the computers were gone. We were like, oh fuck. We have nothing. And then we just kind of cried, and we're like, oh shit.
Yes.
Shit just got real.
Such a terrible.
Always save your work just to have it.
Yeah, and so, I don't know. What do you have to say about layoffs and stuff like that before we go on to the next thing?
I think also too is something that may contribute, and I could be wrong about this, but this is kind of just like my.
I'm just gonna go off and say that you are wrong. So let's just go ahead and move on.
Let's go off. Let's go from there. But
I'm just kidding.
I think also people are becoming more efficient about making projects too, to the point where I don't think we need as many people as you once did to make something. So I think the layoffs, definitely are bad, but I think it's also a good thing, because I feel like people are kind of realizing like, hey, all you need is like 4 or 5 people to really make something. You know what I mean? To make something like quality. Not even that. When I see like what we're doing with like me and John's game, with just 2 people, like what one dude can do in a year, I'm like, holy shit! Like, these companies have like 50 people. Like, how come? You know what I mean? And I think that it's a good thing. I think it's people are kind of realizing that now, because of the big studios are closing down, it's kind of like the wild west. Like, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen with technology. We don't know what the next big thing is, and that can literally be anyone. It could be one of your students. It could be one of us. Like, anyone can make something. And I think that's kind of like scary to people a little bit too, is that like it only takes like 2 people to make a cell phone game. And if that game blows up, like, you're a millionaire overnight. Like, look at Flappy Birds, right? It's just like one dude. Right? Like most of these, and because of that too, funding has changed, right? We have this GoFundMe, we have Kickstarter, we have just many. There's just so many, and then like right before, you used to do work, and they used to be like, oh, we'll promote you. It's like, dude, I don't need promotion anymore, dude. It's called Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. Like, I don't need any more promotion that you can give me. You know what I mean? So now you have free promotion. You don't pay promotion anymore, And so it's like you can literally make your own projects. And I think it's kind of cool. I think that's where people are kind of going. I think the way of the AAA studios will probably only be like 2 or 3, like ones that will last for a long time.
Well, they're going to become distributors eventually, right?
Yeah. But yeah, I think that people just should start making their own stuff, and I think people are doing that.
So that leads perfectly to the segue or that's a great segue to the next thing that I'm going to talk about, which is the future. So what does this mean, right? Like, you see companies like big big companies say, "Oh, we just canceled this thing. We just shut down the studio. We just killed some children on the street." You know, well, except for the latter.
What?
Yeah.
We murdered Jimmy. That's what's up.
Yeah. You know, and you start to realize that there's more and more talent that are going into, you know, they're leaving and they're on their own. Now, this is a great thing because what this does is usually it will make you or it will break you, right? The strong will prevail, and most of these people who worked for these big companies, I am very optimistic about it. Like I believe that they are those game changers. They're people that want to do big things and want to work hard and make things. They worked hard and they got to where they were already. So now the next step is now work hard for yourself, right? And this is where I stand, and this is kind of what I want to talk about a lot, or not a lot, but just like right now, I just want to talk about. And one of the things that you guys need to understand is that the future is looking bright. It's a good one. Things are going well, actually. A lot of things are going tremendously well, right? So let me give you an example of kind of where I'm going with this, just a little bit, and then we'll go right into it. So, you know, there used to be a statistic out there where they were saying, okay, people that did the SATs like back in the 50s or sometime around there, right? Around that, like just longer ago, and they were doing the SATs and they were averaging a really high percentage in scores. Let's say like 98%. I don't have the exact numbers here, but the analogy, or at least the idea, stays the same. And what they did is say, okay, well, let's compare it to today. Let's look at the SAT scores today. So, you know, we're looking at the thousands, and we're going to see who's doing well and how. Or let's see what our stats are today. And they were like really low. They were like in the 50s or 40s or something like that. You know, they were actually significantly lower than the ones in the 50s. So with this information, you would say, well, life sucks. Everyone's gonna die. You know, like we're getting stupider. Americans are getting dumb, and that's clearly not true. If that was true, we would not be making all these great innovative things and things that we have in our pockets. Like in the 50s, they did not have, like, let alone like personal cameras that they can like walk around with like every day, and calculators and like computers. You know, they didn't even have computers or the internet, right? And we have that stuff, and we have even more, right? Like, I just saw a video like maybe 2 weeks ago with some guy wearing a jetpack to run faster. Like, so what does this really mean? What does this mean about the statistic then, right? What it means is that there's a third variable. There's a third variable that no one is paying attention to. The variable is percentage of people who took the test. Now, this percentage starts to reveal more information, which was like maybe 28% of America was taking the SAT, where then now it was like almost close to like 85%. So you see what happened here is that and again, like, these numbers aren't 100% accurate, but they are. This is based off a study that I did not obviously do enough research on, but to get the exact numbers. But my point is that this is where they realize that the evidence is more valuable when you have more information. And the information that they found was that, well, this is actually a good statistic, not a bad one. Because back in the day, you would have to be amongst the elite. In fact, I think this is like actually, I think I'm overshooting this number. I think it's actually much lower, which was probably like in the 15%, if I remember correctly. I remember being shocked at how little people were actually taking the SATs back in the 50s or something like that. And the point I'm trying to make is that more people are allowed to take this test, and more people are allowed to further their education, right? We could talk about education some other day. But the point is that people are there's more access, there's more availability, and that's a good thing, you know? And that happens to skew the test score, because there's a lot of people that are amongst the 85% that, you know, don't do so well. But it doesn't mean that as a country we are getting dumber. It doesn't mean that at all, you know? And it's good to know that if you only are giving information A plus B, then you only come up with C or whatever AB is, whatever that is, which is the end of the world, you know, like everything sucks, everybody sucks, I suck. Why work on anything in my life when everything's dying? When you realize there is A plus B plus C and potentially plus other variable, and equals the truth, which is things are always and will most likely always be better and become better. We're in a more modern society and things are better. So what am I getting at with all this stuff then? What am I trying to say with all this, like being laid off and all this stuff? Why did I say all the bad? So this is the A and B. We outsource, we lay off people, the industry is crap. We don't make good movies anymore, everything sucks. That's not true. We still do make good movies, but they might not be in the theaters, and there might be very few of them you've ever actually heard of. It depends on where you're looking, right? It depends absolutely on where you're looking. Because if you're only looking here, then yes, your evidence is going to say that everything sucks, all the movies suck. But if you're looking here, you'll see the way that I see it. That actually there's an open market, and it's getting bigger and bigger, and it's actually extremely valuable, and there's plenty of room for everyone. And that market is really just selling online. Now, this has been going around for the last 10 years or so. Selling online has been evolving and evolving, and it's starting to get to the point where people trust it tremendously, where they can buy almost everything and anything without too much reservation. There used to be a time where if you tried to sell someone online something, they'd be like, "What? You're going to rape me? You're going to rape me!" And and you would go and rape them, and it was true.
Caught him slipping.
Yeah, Craigslist, right? Like that, it's come a long way.
Got raped.
But now, that we have stuff like eBay, Amazon, the App Store, iTunes. We have all these platforms that are saying, internet's not bad, guys. You can buy stuff and you'll get your thing, man. And because of that, it's opening the overall store in which people can buy from. And the people who could be merchants of the store could be us, the everyday person, right? And that's a cool idea. Because here's the problem that the film industry, let's go up here. Here's one of the problems of why this happens, this whole lower rate stuff. We some of the visual effects houses that what I heard, they charge like $1 million a minute, right? I'm not sure if that's 100% accurate, but I know it's pretty close.
It's not. I don't think it's that high.
I think it really is this high. I mean,
$1 million a minute.
Yeah, so if you do, let's say, 30 minutes of film, that's $30 million. That's actually really
okay,
low.
mind. Like I thought you meant like in terms of like working on it. I was like,
no. I'm sorry.
And in years, that's like economies will collapse.
Yeah. No, I mean, if we do, so for example, like if you look at like Transformers is about 100 to 60, 120 minutes worth of, and it's about 160 to $200 million. Mostly, right, for visual effects, and then there's another 100 million for the actors and crew and all that great stuff that goes into that, right?
Yeah.
Whatever. Let's get into the visual effects part of it, because I don't know anything about being crewman for a film. I only know the visual effects angle of it because I worked in those places, right? And I have lots of friends who work in this field. So $1 million a minute, right, of footage. Let's be clear. Not 100. We worked 30 minutes today. We're rich.
Yeah,
quit the project.
Tired.
But you only modeled the thread.
Keep retiring.
Spread that amongst, let's say, a group of 100 or even thousands of people. That money thins out really quick, especially out of those hundreds of thousands of people, or out of those 100 or 1,000 people. Maybe 10 of those people get a chunk of that money to buy their yachts, right? Mm-hmm. And then the rest goes back down to the people. And so, you start to realize, and like, by the way, a minute of footage is will take a month. It takes a while. It takes a couple months to get just even partial of what the film is going to have. So imagine you do that. So you have $1 million minute budget, or $1 million minute quote, And you have to feed 1,000 people or hundreds. Like I think the lowest I've heard was like 200 people for a visual effects house. But I mean, I don't know. There could be smaller. But imagine you say that for let's say you said we're gonna charge 1 million a minute to. You know what? No, not a 1 million a minute. We're gonna do half of that. Half. You know what? Not even half. A third.
Yeah.
Right, which is like $300,000. But only amongst, let's say, an elite group of 10 people. And I'm not talking about overseas. I'm talking about here in America. Some of the best artists get together and they say, let's start a visual effects house. I think us 10 together combined can do all the work that was required of us in these big studios for much cheaper, and the margins will be much greater. And you could even keep cutting it, man. I mean, that's still like a lot of money for that small of a group. And so what I'm trying to get at is that this could potentially happen. And what could happen then is that there could be multiple groups of 10 people that are competing amongst each other, right? And we can keep the rate relatively. You just got to keep it modest and honest, and more importantly, to be able to keep your rate at, like, let's say a high quote, like let's say you are charging 300 or even $1 million a minute, then you have to be like the ILM. You have to be like the Navy SEALs of visual effects. Not only do you guys get that stuff done, you get it done quickly, and it's one of the best, and it's different, right? So then you can say, like, oh, you want to get your movie done in less than a year? We can do that for you at half the cost, but you have to pay, And so,
Yeah, they did that Tom Cruise movie in like 6 months, I believe.
Yeah, so, and a lot. It's funny because this has already happened. A lot of veterans that have left their studios have started their own studios, and they're competing with their father studios, the people that they used to work for. And what I'm trying to get at is, so when people get laid off, I think this is what could happen. People can just find another way of making a living. I heard a game studio got shut down. Right, a complete game studio got shut down, and it's like, you guys suck. You guys don't make enough money. They're like, your game was great though. It was a great game, but you guys suck. Makes no sense. Yeah, you guys suck. So you're fired. We're out. Yeah, and they're like, what? But our game was great. It got great reviews. Whatever. BioShock Infinite. And every one of you are fired. Sucks to be y'all. And then what happens is, like, this is a true story. Like, a group of these guys are like, God damn it, families. We got families, man. And they're like, yeah, let's start a small company. And one of them was like, dude, I've heard that, like, ArcViz, like architectural visualization, they're in need of, like, real-time kind of concepts. We know how to use Unreal. We know how to model. We know how to do all these things. We know technical stuff. Why don't we outsource ourselves as a small group of like 5 or 10, and basically get clients from like the architectural world, the real estate world, and we'll just make concepts for them. We'll build their concepts, right? We'll build the architects' concepts in real time, and then their clients can actually walk around and see the environments in their hotels or their rooms. So we'll do that for them. And these guys make millions of bucks. Mm-hmm. Because that's a huge market that they didn't think about trying to dive into, but one guy had an idea, and they're making these really elaborate, like, architectural designs that look real, but you can interact with it. You can turn on the lights, you can walk around, you can change out the color of the couches, you can change the whole couch, because they're using game engines. They're like, it's basically a game, but you're actually just looking at a concept. And they're a small group and they're doing fine. Clash of Clans was like 2 guys.
Yeah.
And now they're making trillions of dollars.
Making your own IP is where it's at. I mean, at the end of the day, if you really want to be secure, I mean, that's one of the reasons why VFX studios don't do that well, is just because a director can pay a company millions of dollars, right? But there's no agreement that if the movie does well, that you're going to get any of that money, right? Yeah. So they just pay you up front, and then if the movie does well, all the money goes to the director. Look at Life of Pi, right? That movie did really, really well, but because the movie did well, right? That studio that worked on it, Rhythm and Hues, they don't get any money of that, right? So that's why they end up going under. Yeah. So that's why if you want to work for studio, that's why studios like Disney and like Pixar did really well, because they're in the same kind of business, right? VFX. But their thing is that the money that they make from their movies goes back into their pocket, right?
Yep.
Because it sells toys, it sells the park, it sells, all kinds of stuff, So when ILM, works on Transformers, they don't really see any of that money that it makes from, from Hasbro, right? From all like the toy stuff like that. We don't see any of that money. So I think when people start working on their own IPs, if it's successful, right, then the money goes back into your pocket. So I think that's what people are starting to do now, starting to realize that Steam is the answer to everything.
No,
I mean, I could attest to that. I mean, me and John's game that we're working on is through the Steam Greenlight project, and people are following it and they want it to happen, and like we don't have to answer to anybody. Like it's our own IP, So I think if you really want security at the end of the day, as you get older, I think you're kind of forced to kind of just work on your own stuff, because if you kind of just try to invest in other companies, like you could always get laid off. A company can always go under for reasons that are totally not even related to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So to kind of end this for a little bit, or just kind of end the note on this thing, and really talk about what is an answer for big studios is what Valve has been doing with Steam. Valve has got it right for a long time. They've been paying attention, and they realize that we can make money from our community by embracing them, listening to them, and giving them the things that they care about, right? And they are notoriously known for buying extremely good modders of their community to make their games. The only game that Valve actually, I believe, is their game is Half-Life, right? Like that's truthfully that's like their only real game as far as I'm concerned, right? But like Counter-Strike was modded, Team Fortress was a mod. I believe Portal was an internal game that was also from a mod. All of their games that they're under their umbrella, their name were mods of just Half-Life, right? And they just embraced it, and and they totally said, this is great. We should embrace our community, and we should totally make this a thing. I mean, and they keep doing stuff like that. They keep doing stuff that involve the community. They involve, like they say, okay, hey, we're gonna make a game. It's called Dota 2. It's basically gonna be competitive against games like League of Legends, Heroes of New Earth, Smite, all these kind of MOBA games. But what we're going to do too, though, is that we're going to add an element where people outside of our company can model and distribute skins of our characters, and they can make a profit from them. They can put it on the market, people can buy the character skin, and we'll give them a piece of that pie. And it worked so well that some of the modelers decided we're complaining to the company because they're like, dude, I heard this guy from somewhere made the skin for only made one skin for this one character and made more than I made in the whole year, and I modeled like 5 of the characters in the game. I'm like an official employee of this game, and I don't make as much money as someone that just just volunteered to work for the company. And it's such an interesting thing. They had to change their policy about that. They added that perk as one of the things, as one of the company assets, right? And so all these people are starting to do this. Another place that started doing this was like Unity, and Unreal is totally have embraced this idea. It's basically saying, hey, we're gonna take a small percentage of all the profits of your game, but we're going to give you unbelievable amounts of content to make your game sick. And it should be easy, or easier, right, than doing it on your own. We'll give you resources. We'll give you free video tutorials. Both of these places have opened up markets where you can actually buy from other artists and from other designers their things that you could put into your game, right? That's so cool, right? It's opening up the market. And it's opening up the way that people communicate to each other and how people buy things from one another. What these big companies can do is start putting the control in their fans' hands, their community's hands, and start saying, we're going to give you the things you guys care about, and then all we want back in return is a small percentage. And then that way, there's a cost of entry. Netflix has already kind of started like this, like the subscription model is like an embraced model because it works. It's super low cost of entry, right? And then you get a buttload of content, right? It's a win-win. And what's great is that everybody wins because Netflix makes millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars every month, and Netflix will eventually can be the premier place to go when you want to distribute your movie. You don't want to go to these big studios anymore. He's like, I want to get that Netflix money, and it's starting to turn slowly but surely. People don't want to go watch a $13, $14 movie if I can go watch that same movie from home for what it feels to be free. I just gotta wait, and I think this is really where I want people to understand. Like, I just left. Kalen is working on his own game with, like he just said, John, and it's a freaking beautiful game. In fact, if you can link it to the stream so people can go check it out.
Yeah, John gave the old link, by the way. That's not what the game looks like now. God. So I was like, oh shit, they're gonna think this game looks terrible. No, it looks a lot better. But
okay, and the next thing is like what I want to talk about is like I left Blizzard because I started the Gumroad videos, like the online tutorials, right? And then I was like, I'm gonna sell them for $5 and whatever. And people, came in I don't know,
oh my
right?
God.
Yeah, there's just so many people came to support this idea. And then other artists started doing this and all this, but that online tutorial stuff, that online tutorial craze was not just. It wasn't just like a fad. It was like the beginning of something.
That link's not working.
All right, do that one. Sorry, do this one. I guess sent you.
And so what's cool about all of this is what I'm trying to say is that because of this, I was able to go walk into the office where I was working at Blizzard to my producer, and I told her, I was like, look, no hard feelings. I love the company. This place is great, and I do love Blizzard. I think it's one of the best places I have ever worked at. And I explained to them, I was like, look, I made more money in 1 month, or I'm sorry, I made more money in 1 week than I have made in 1 month working here. Like 1 month of pay is still lower than what I've made in 1 week on doing my online tutorials. And they were like, what? And I was like, yeah, exactly. I quit. And so then, I told them that, and they were like, whoa. And I was like, look, man, I just can't. This is getting out of control. I want to embrace this. I want to do this full time. That's kind of where I'm at now, where I started my mentorship, where I'm teaching people, and I am basically the person that manages this, and I can keep it pretty affordable and make it full of content. I'm learning from these people what they have done well and what they're doing and continuously doing well. Is provide your fan base and continuously feed into them great content, great advice, and value, and then they will support you right back. Be honest and modest. And one thing that I really appreciate is that I am able to not only sustain myself and my family with this, I'm also able to tell people, you could do it too, and we wouldn't be in competition. There's plenty of room for all of us. And the next thing that's cool about all this is that I'm not doing this entirely full time. I teach a few times out of the week. I have to submit a couple videos, but after that, I don't really need to be working on the mentorship. I am working on the mentorship, obviously, trying to make it better every time we release the next class, but I can also be working on my own stuff, and that's why I'm working on the game. And I recently released Lab the Game, the Tumblr, which is me developing the game, working on the game, and showing you updates as I go through the game and make new changes and stuff like that. And I'm doing this without being tied down to any kind of publisher or anything like that, which allows me to honestly we have conversations. John and I had a conversation the other day where he was saying well, what about this and that, and a lot of that talk was very educated on the fact that casual gamers may not want to play our game, and I said, well, why do we have to make it for casual gamers, And then John was like, yeah, you know what? That's right. We don't have to, right? Because under a publisher's like, well, if you want to make money, you got to have this. You got to have a bunny, you got to have a cat video, and you got to have a jump mechanic, which we have a jump mechanic. which is
But can
great.
you double jump?
Yeah. Oh, see, we won't get that guy, dude. That guy that loves double jump. But
Where's my double jumping cat, bro?
so I'm not trying to say that we're allowed to make a bad game. I'm trying to say we're allowed to make a game that we think would be fun, right? Without any true constraints, because I am being supported by my fans, and in return, I'm teaching them, educating, and giving them the jobs that I used to be. Like, I'm taking freelance jobs, and I'm giving them my freelance jobs, and basically becoming their art director and moderator between the client and them. and since I'm a concept artist, if they like are a little short or they don't fully succeed at the assignment, I can just do the paint over and just work from something that is I don't have to spend those hours starting from scratch. I can start from a really substantial quality drawing and then just buff it up a little bit, right? It works for everybody. Everyone wins. And I think what's great about this is that I want to be a content creator. I've always wanted to be. You know, I mean, when I wanted to work here, work there, I mean, everyone I think subconsciously realizes that you want to be the boss of your own thing, and it's kind of nice. You know, it's kind of nice. And what I'm trying to say with this, the whole moral of the story, is that there's two paths, right? And no path is wrong, right? Each path has its dangers, but as a person who's trying to decide which path should I take, you know, which path out of these two paths, which is a career for another person, like basically a career for someone else, or a career for yourself. And both of these will be equally as hard, in my opinion, and also they'll be equally as rewarding. Maybe this will be more rewarding. Who knows? I don't know. Some people love to work under the umbrella of a huge and well-known and established company that they truly love and are a fan of, and rise up into the ranks and potentially become the people that work for themselves too, right? So I'm not trying to say either or is bad, but I'm trying to say that this path is starting to be a lucrative one that is more approachable and more attainable. It used to be almost suicide to try to work for yourself, and only the best and people who really have the patience and the dedication to really strive can actually achieve those types of things. But now it's like, you know, if you just have a little bit of patience and a little bit of strive, you can make it as someone who makes a modest living working for yourself. And I think this is really what I want to get at, and I want to kind of get people to think positively about these layoffs and say, if you've been laid off yourself, to start thinking, do I want to work somewhere else and then eventually get laid off again? Or do I want to be so good that they can never lay me off and then stay at the company and become a lead or a director or whatever? Or the alternative, do I want to just start something else? Is there another alternative that I can do? Should I make a game? I never tried. Let me try this engine. Oh, this engine's really easy and affordable and cheap and accessible. Why not? You know, or let me try to make an animation. I've never tried. Let me try it. Oh, look, I can do it. It's actually not as difficult as I thought, and so forth and so on. People are so afraid of failure, but you know what? You're gonna fail no matter what path you take. But at least with the career for yourself path, you can pay attention to those failures, and those are more self-reflections, right? Versus someone didn't have enough money to pay you, so they fired you. Right?
Yeah, definitely. Like success, you should definitely, one thing I should say is like success is kind of what you define it. I know like a lot of people will probably think like I won't be successful until I work at like a big company or work on like a AAA title. But I mean, success is what you want to do. I mean, if you want to just work on small mobile games and that's what makes you happy, then you are successful. You know, if you want to work at AAA studios, then yeah, that can do that. But, you know, having worked abroad in Europe, I've seen people that have worked on small things that didn't even seem cool to me. And I'm like, that's all you want to do? You don't want to go and make your own company and like, you know, work on like movies and work on big games? And they're just like, no. I was like, really? That doesn't interest you? He's like, not really. He's like, as long as I, you know, have some money to feed my kids and I can have some wine at home with my wife and I can go on a vacation every once in a while. He's like, I'm happy here. Like, and that isn't anything wrong with that. You know what I mean?
Perfectly
like some
fine.
people are okay doing the smaller things, and you shouldn't pass judgment on those people. You know, just because someone isn't working at like a AAA studio doesn't mean that you're necessarily better than them. Again, everyone measures success differently, and I think it's important as you go through your art career to find out like what is success to you. You know what I mean? That kind of happened to me a little bit. You know, I really wanted to work at the bigger studios, and I still do at some point in time. I want to go back to that life. But I thought, well, I've always wanted to make my own kind of RPG game, and I can do that now without having to go work at a bunch of different studios to, get the experience. I can do it right now. So why don't I just do it right now? You know what I mean? And so again, success is more so what you think. Some people probably think AJ is crazy for leaving Blizzard, one of the biggest companies in the world. But maybe success to AJ is, starting his own school and helping out people. So you'll probably figure out, and your priorities will change. But yeah, just remember that success is different for everybody. And as long as you're happy, I think that's like probably the best thing you can probably work towards.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and just jump ahead into the questions. The lecture went a little over than I expected, so we actually don't have too much time for questions. But it should be all right. We'll go for about 10 minutes.
Until Bea signs in.
No. I should be leaving in about 10 minutes. Yeah. No, so I'm gonna put a timer right now for 10 minutes. So no matter what, when that timer hits 10, we have to stop the stream. John, you should probably make an incremental one, maybe, like one for every 2 minutes. Or just keep your eye on the clock, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, go ahead, John. And I'm going to be painting something that will be kind of demonstrated in the dynamic lighting class, just a little bit. So go for it.
So the first question says, is CTNX a good convention to show portfolios / get a job for someone more interested in games or films?
I think mostly CTN is like an animation.
Animation, yeah.
But I don't think that means there's no game studios there. But
it's closely tied, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just looking for a job, then yeah, it's a great opportunity, especially if you want to get into animation. But more importantly than that, it's just a really cool place to go to meet other artists and other really well-known people there.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah, so I would recommend you going and bringing your portfolio and just see what happens. Yeah. And as for networking goes, like people always ask, like, how do you shoot a network? Just be yourself. Just be friendly.
Yeah.
All right, so let's just move on to the next question. I think that was pretty easy, self-explanatory. Yeah, you should go. It's great. You might have going to conventions is always a good idea.
Yeah, people in the game industry go to that for sure. So just go.
What happens if you got laid off and unpaid for your time? This is like the disaster scenario.
You can sue. If there's contractual stuff there, you can sue them, man. In fact, that's what people did with Rhythm and Hues and Digital Domain. Sue. They were coming from some of my buddies who work freelance, because freelance people like got paid, and then people who were working in the studio did not get paid, and they're like, "What? You paid these guys, but you didn't pay us?" And they got sued, and then lawyers were coming after people. You can sue people. Say, you owe me money, give me that money.
Or you can hire, people that have a certain set of skills.
Yeah, hire Liam Neeson.
Straight tooken.
That is the advice.
Next question says, I just came back from Trojan Horse, which was a unicorn.
I heard it's so good, man. I wish I was there. I didn't even hear about it until like everyone went already and came back from it. I was like, what is this thing?
It said, Anthony, can you please come next year? I have already asked Andre, the organizer, to make you come next year.
If they invite me, freaking hell yeah, I'll go. I didn't even know what it was until like everyone was like posting pictures of like, this event has changed my life.
I thought it was
the
a joke.
Greatest thing that has ever happened. And I'm like, what? What? I would have totally went if I knew it was a thing. I would have like just went on my own dime and just meet people. Like whenever that many artists conjured in one room, especially as one is like notable, like Sid Mead, who's like one of my favorite artists of all time. Oh yeah, you bet. If they invite me, dude, hell yeah. Hell yeah. And in fact, if they invite me and they want me to do a talk, I'll make it the best talk that they'll ever have in the rest of their lives. No one will ever live up to it. Just because, like, I love those events, and that event would be, like, going to the TED Talk of artists. And I'll be like, okay. I'm going to, like, memorize, learn how to dance, then do all kinds of stuff. Just make it so good. Just make it so good. Make pamphlets.
Do a dance.
Yeah, just do a dance. For no reason. Yeah. If they ever reach out to me, of course, I would love to. I would be very honored. It looks like a great event. I'm like, I was so sad that I didn't get to go. Not just as a lecturer. I mean, that'd be great. Even if I'm not, like, I'm going to go next year, regardless. So,
yeah, that looks fun.
Make it happen. I'll do it. I promise.
Next question says, what is the expected / suggested skill level for entering the class?
I'd say like John and I have seen all kinds of levels from supremely low level to extremely high level, and everyone does well and everyone loves it. No one complains about, oh well, I didn't feel like I could keep up. Everyone doesn't like. Everyone felt like they got tremendous value, and the reason why I think that's good to know because the people that are lower like are complaining like I feel so behind and like I'm not very good. I was like, look, man, don't find reasons to stop painting. Find reasons to paint. Like, look, these are your peers now. Let them help you. Like, help them help guide you, or even more importantly, have them be your subtle competition. Because the reality is they are your competition, you know. And I always try to say, don't be judging the value of your work compared to others to help you progress, like in a negative way. Use it as a positive thing. Say like, well, like they've been drawing for a while, so that shows me some promise. And more importantly, what I think you could do is when you take the class and you're at a lower level, I would highly recommend that you just do the work and do as I say. Everyone who's done that comes out of the class like rock stars. Like they make huge improvements. If I don't see you progress, I'm addressing something more personal, right? Like we had one student where I actually called him and we just talked to him and only him. And I really kind of kicked his butt and told him like, hey, it's not your skill that's making you not a frontier artist. That's not what's. It's not your skill. It's your lack of conviction. Like your your lack of conviction. There you go, conviction. It's your lack of conviction, right? Oh. It's like you're not trying hard enough, right? And I could see that a mile away. And I point that out in the students if I see it. And then every time I do that, the student comes back with the next week like tremendous amounts of work. But if you are like a hard worker and you are I was gonna say convicted. If you are passionate, like has Mike ever got back to us? Because he's a great example, man. Anyway, we have some great examples in the mech class, but the point I'm trying to say is that he came back, like he came with a vengeance, man. You should see like some of the lower tier students, like he worked his butt off every class, and he came out like crazy good. We were like shocked. Everybody was like, what the? And I think that's what I'm trying to get at is like, passion defeats skill, because then skills just eventually will happen. If you got that passion, bro, it just happens. There's nothing that will stop you at that point. This is all temporary. Next question.
Says AJ, when you first started to draw, do you remember your study schedule learning to draw and paint efficiently and fast?
Draw all day.
Yeah. I love that question because people assume that that's like a question that it's a very like important question to ask. And let me tell you, like, it's not really that important of a question to ask. The only reason why I think you should like try to make your own and understand that there is a schedule. But I mean, I really didn't have a schedule, and I think any artist that said that they had a schedule might be subtly lying to you. I don't think any of us really makes a schedule. We just draw. The point is, as long as that Wacom pen is moving, you are getting better. Just move that Wacom pen, and you're going to be doing great.
People are going to take that literally. You know that, right?
No, seriously, like move it. Like just
I moved my Wacom pen for 5 years.
Oh, dude, let me tell you a short story. Just a short.
And I didn't get better.
Short story. When I was in Colombia, there was a student there who was like telling me that he's been drawing for 6 years and all this stuff. And I looked at his work and I was just like, what? This is like really bad. And I looked at him and I was like, how much do you draw, dude? Like really? He's like, oh, I draw all the time. And I was like, no, like really? Like, how much do you draw? Like, when was the last time you drew? He's like, well, I drew like on Monday. And it was like Wednesday, and I was just like, or it was like Thursday, and I was like, so you've been drawing for 6 years, you say? I said, then what happened? And he's like, what do you mean? And I explained to him, I was like, because I've only been drawing and painting for 7 years. So how, like, do you think, like, it was that 1 year? Like, next year, you're going to get it, and everything you're going to be, like, right where I'm at. I was like, what's the difference? Like, what happened? And I explained, basically, I just really harshly explained to him, like, look, dude, you have not been drawing for 6 years. You may have been drawing off and on for 6 years, but 6 years of work, there's no proof here. None. And you can't lie to me, man. And I was like, if you draw every day, hardcore practice for just 1 year, you get tremendous growth. So I basically told him, I was like, you need to decide right away if you actually want to be an artist, because right now there's no evidence that you do, and you can't be lying to yourself.
It's practice makes permanent, not perfect.
Yep, and I basically explained to him like in a very really kind of, but he was great though. He took like a champ. He didn't like come back with anything. He just kind of looked at me and was like, "All right, got it." Yeah, I know. Yeah, I was afraid he was going to
Your car blows up.
Because most people, when you start to tell them like they're not very good or they're not working hard enough, and they get really defensive. But he didn't. He took my opinion very seriously, and I think it'll be great to finally like one day see that he's like on like these big art forums and comes out like a champion, and then even become better than me. That'd be great. But it's hard, man, and I don't appreciate anyone that thinks that it's hard. So don't worry about like study schedules and stuff like that. I would worry more about like, are you just painting and studying? But if you are not doing that, then that requires you to make a schedule. Like if you're constantly wasting your time with other stuff, then you are not working hard enough. Oh, I think we're running out of time.
Is Bea in here?
No.
Bea, you here?
All right. How many questions do we have left? I'm sure we have a lot.
Like 3.
Okay, let's just shotgun through them, and then we gotta end this stream.
Choose wisely.
In terms of creating your own IP, do you guys know any techniques or methods that are simple and efficient?
There is no thing that's simple, bros.
When choosing your own IP, like making it or like doing. Wait, I don't understand the question.
John.
Yeah, it's all it says.
When doing
in terms
your
of creating your own IP.
Just start writing stuff down, man. Get a whiteboard. Get a whiteboard, I would say, and start writing your stuff down. Like start figuring it out.
I will say there's no easy way, and there's no like surefire way, at least that I found. But there is definitely I noticed a trend. Sometimes it happens when I noticed that this happens with like people who like are just making something or like trying to learn something, and then they start to practice this thing that they're trying to do, or like for example, I'm trying to like learning Unreal, and as I'm learning Unreal, like I'm starting to pay attention to like what like I can do with it. And as I discover more and more and more on how to use Unreal, I'm finding like I can actually make a game out of this thing that I'm doing, and because of that, out of like trial and error, I'm making potentially a video game, right? And it's cool because like I didn't expect that I was going to do that, right? And it was kind of all by accident. Same thing with Heaven's Hell, actually. Like Heaven's Hell, I was just drawing like this kind of thing. I was just doing lunch sketches, and then people fell in love with it, and I was just like, this is actually pretty cool. Like I should explore this further, and I just started going with it, and the more I went with it, the more I started loving what I was doing with it, and I made my own pay. I just started making my own IP, my own pay. Just started making my own pee.
That's rough, dude.
Anyways, for the next classes coming up, do you have any ideas on what those are going to be?
Ooh.
For the next ones, like after November,
Yeah.
I'm assuming. Yeah, no.
We talked about it a little bit, like.
Oh well, like we kind of like make it up like towards the end. We start to kind of think about what we can do. We try to pay attention to the current stuff that we got going, because it's just easier to kind of maintain it that way. But like we do have plans on being mostly character driven, like mentorship, and then with people like Kaylin, the guest star, to do like basically like keep it more general versus more like specific. Right, like originally, like going like mech design is kind of a product of trying to make like a different kind of class. But I realize, people just want kind of the character class or like the environment class. Just like straight up, are we doing environments or are we doing characters? Like, what are we doing? Make up your mind. Like all this other stuff is just kind of unnecessary, is what I'm trying to say. I don't think people there's not as like we fill up the class, we sell out, and they're like there's a tremendous love and care for what we do when we put out these classes, but I'm trying to pay attention to what people kind of want and try to basically cash in on that. Like that way we can make the things that people want, and at the same time create a really good, strong, you know, reliable source of income through the mentorship. You know, we can say, well, people just love the classes this way, so let's just make them this way. And I'm actually thinking of like making like a light version of the mentorship, which is like that's kind of what we did with the silver class, right? But we're thinking about doing more like, hey, you know, what if you take this class, but you don't necessarily like get my critiques or anything, but you can follow along with the assignments and just kind of watch the videos and stuff like that. Like my buddy Bobby does something like that. It's called like the self-taught classes, but it's something that's very like more like you would be exposed to the information and resources like if you were taking the full class, but it's just like one-off pay and it's extremely cheap. Extremely cheap. But the obviously the difference is you don't get the hardcore like critique sessions and mentoring. You know, that's the only thing that you miss out on is that. Yeah.
Yep. So one more question.
Okay,
It says, what would you suggest to me if I wanted to work for film? Where should I start if I already have a decent concept / painting skill?
I'm not sure how to answer that question. Wait, say that again?
What would you suggest to me if I wanted to work for film? Where should I start if I already have a decent concept painting skill? Concept / painting skill.
That's a weird question. It's kind of a hard question to answer, no?
I think what he's trying to say, like, what do I do? You know, like, what do I do? Like, how do I get a job? Yeah,
Give me a step by step.
and it really, like, with most places, you have to get your work in front of those people that will hire you to work in film. And the best way to start is to really just start somewhere. There is really no, I wouldn't say the best place, but actually there is probably a good place to go, which would be Comic-Con. You know, there's a hodgepodge of everything there. You go there, you would get that kind of resource, that access to that you know, group, that pool of people who are hiring artists for film. You know, I mean, I got my first gig on film mostly from word of mouth, so it's hard for me to give you kind of really valuable information that kind of can stick, because you know it varies depending on like what kind of portfolio you have. Because having some decent and okay painting skills is really valuable, for sure. But I think it's better to have just a really quality value portfolio. And if you want to work in film, I could say this: your portfolio has to be very, very believable and like realistic. Because if you're going to work for live action, that's just kind of the deal. You know, the deal is you can paint realistically. You know, otherwise, you know, if you have just kind of okay, you'll be better suited for games. Games take more advantage of people that can just paint really well and whatever. But those who can actually like make realistic looking concepts get jobs in film. That's just kind of how it is. And so I would say, you know, the best start is just to keep working on your portfolio, get the portfolio up there, and then just start going to these conventions and these places where the opportunity to get that job is more. It happens more frequently. You know, increase that opportunity, that chance, and you'll get that job sooner than later, man. It's not crazy hard to get a job. It's crazy hard to get a good portfolio, right? Because if you have a crazy good portfolio, then those jobs just come to you, man. So like, I would think of it more like that, right? Think of it about like making your portfolio amazing, not so much like, how do I hustle? How do I steal people's brains so they think that they can give me a job and they'll be happy with that? How do I do that? You know? And so, yeah, I think that's it, guys.
Cool.
Fun show.
And just to kind of talk about what's happening here with my painting, I'm showing you kind of some strategies. Now, you would learn this in other classes too. That's why I'm saying like the dynamic lighting would be more focused specifically on how to achieve like the actual like design of painting something like this. But overall, I use this approach. You know, whenever I need to do like a client work that needs like some crazy lighting of some sort, and I can just do it all through basically using these different layer modes and all stuff. But the class will be more instructional on how to control that, understand it, and basically use it as a design tool. And a reliable and tool that you can actually adjust constantly and consistently. And talk about composition and how to basically frame and use lighting as a tool of design for your values. You have your values, now how you light those values. So anyways, thanks guys for taking the class. Oh, I'm sorry, hanging out for the. I'm so used to saying taking the class. Thanks guys for hanging out for the stream. Thanks Kaylin for talking with us.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Thanks John for moderating.
Yep.
If you notice on the bottom of the page, there's a donate button. We appreciate if you donate $1 at the minimum to these streams, so that will allow us to do more of these streams. If you don't want to donate, you don't care about it, I would also recommend maybe getting an online tutorial that I have online. Also, Kaylin has one as well. You support us in these things, this would be great, because then not only am I trying to make this a regular thing, it'd be nice to be able to kind of make this a regular thing that I can actually, be supported by. And if not, it's fine. I'm still going to make it happen. I'm still going to work on it. But donations is never a bad thing, right? It helps out. So, thanks, guys. Talk to you guys later. And
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye. Bye, guys.